I'm the dude. So that's what you call me.
Are you a virgin?
Yeah, not since I was 10.
Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret.
Come on to the coast. We get together, have a few laughs.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Can I return it if it doesn't fit?
It always fits. Eventually.
Welcome back to Movie Mingle. I'm Caveman.
And I'm Maggie.
And today we're doing episode number 36 and PIXAR's Up.
Aww.
From 2009.
I remember seeing this movie in the theater with you.
Yes. This movie.
This fucking movie.
This movie's so charming and beautiful, sweet and endearing, and
I think Caveman likes it.
It's kind of like a warm hug.
This movie is kind of a warm hug. You are right.
Up was directed by Pete Docter, of course, the Mr. Pixar himself.
Fucking
I feel
genius.
Between him and Lasseter, I feel like Pete Docter does all the work. I mean, he co-created Toy Story with John Lasseter, so that alone shows how great this guy is. I mean, he directed Monsters, Inc. and Inside Out and Soul. Bob Peterson was the co-director on Up, and he mostly directed Pixar shorts.
Which are some of the best animated shorts to ever exist.
Yeah, they're great.
They're great.
Pete Docter and Bob Peterson also wrote the movie. They had also worked on Finding Nemo together and Ratatouille and The Good Dinosaur and Cars 3. And then Tom McCarthy also worked on this screenplay with them. A lot of people wouldn't know who Tom McCarthy is, but he wrote the screenplay for The Station Agent.
Oh, The Station Agent was a cute movie. I remember liking that one.
Yeah, with Peter Dinklage. We talked about it a little bit when we did Death at a Funeral versus Death at a Funeral.
Yeah.
Which, if anybody out there hasn't listened to our
bonus, well, watch those movies first.
Yes.
And, at least watch the
British one.
Yeah.
And then listen to our podcast of British versus American versions of those movies.
Yes.
And Peter Dinklage does all the work. But he's great in The Station Agent. Tom McCarthy also did the screenplay for Christopher Robin. So I think he's pretty used to tugging at people's heartstrings, it seems. Daniel Lopez Munoz is credited as the art director for this movie. It's kind of like a cinematographer, but he's worked on so many Pixar projects and VeggieTales.
Oh, fucking VeggieTales.
VeggieTales is kind of where he got his start.
Oh, man. So I feel like there's a certain small Venn diagram of Christian kids and emo weirdo kids of the early 2000s.
Liked animation when they were young.
Yeah, so I guess that's the third bubble. And then animation lovers have all connected into VeggieTales. Because although I did not grow up religious, I fucking love VeggieTales. Caveman grew up religious. Fucking loves VeggieTales.
I love VeggieTales.
And
there's some great episodes,
VeggieTales
stories.
Movie. So good. It was so good.
I can start singing the opening song if you like to walk with tomatoes.
Talk to tomatoes.
Well, it's walk and talk.
It's talk.
I know, but there's... Anyway.
If you like to talk to tomatoes, if a squash can make you smile, if you like to waltz with potatoes, up and down the produce aisle, have we got a show for you. VeggieTales, 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 broccoli.
For me, and you did it last week, you cannot say the words, where is the hairbrush?
Oh, yeah. Oh, where is my hairbrush?
Yeah.
Oh, where is my hairbrush? Where
is my hairbrush?
I do that at work too, and people start joining in. So it's
no. VeggieTales is beloved, but it's not just Christian kids.
No, it's not just Christian kids. And that's the point. I think
it was supposed to bring kids in.
Yeah,
to
you don't want to.
Christianism?
It's not like the creators of
Christianity?
obviously the creators of VeggieTales. The point of a show like that is not just to cater to people who are already believing in your faith, but to bring more followers in.
So it's proselytizing. Is that the word?
I don't know if that's the word, but I understand what you mean.
We might want to re-record this.
No, it's all right. It's up. We
up.
misread the name.
We did.
VeggieTales is great because
VeggieTales
in the
is
end,
great.
they have great messages for kids.
The
little
VeggieTales
children.
movie, I went to see the VeggieTales movie in high school when it came out. And I will forever just wander around going, Jonah was a prophet. Ooh, ooh. And he really couldn't stop it. Sad but true. Like, I don't remember anything else of that movie but the music slapped
The music in
much harder.
The TV series and the movie, they're done
bops.
very well.
The songs from VeggieTales are bops.
And this was a time when computer animation was still
It was
pretty
rough,
new.
but that's okay.
And you have all these, like a cucumber and a tomato talking
Larry
to each other.
the Cucumber was cute as fuck.
And you can
Larry
tell that
Larry the Cucumber
they
and
didn't have
Bob
a lot of
the
money.
Tomato. No?
Larry the Cucumber and
Yeah.
Bob the Tomato, yeah.
It was a passion project for some Christian nerds out there.
And it's great.
And it made money.
I have nothing against the VeggieTales. I think it's... If
I
it
would
was,
let my kids watch it.
it wasn't available to us when our
No.
kids were growing up.
No, I don't think there might be streaming on some sort of weird, probably Christian-based website, but I can't imagine... It's not on like Hulu or anything. You can't
Not
pull
that
up
I'm aware of.
VeggieTales on Disney Plus the way you can pull up Bluey.
There are certain episodes that if I was scrolling through, would probably watch them as a 43-year-old.
Well, I think I know what we're doing after this on YouTube.
Looking for them?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm fine with watching an episode tonight.
Up.
Up. Oh, yeah, that's what we're watching. Up is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes with a 98% from critics
Who didn't fucking like this movie?
and a 90% from audiences. A great score, but still low.
Only 90% from... The way I hear people talk about this movie is the way that I hear people talk about Jesus.
I've never
This movie
heard
is
anybody
Pixar Jesus.
say anything bad
I
about
have not
this movie.
once in my life heard somebody say, I didn't really like it. Because I think that people would turn on them en masse like they were Frankenstein's monster. I talked recently about how unfair it is that when I dislike something popular, people are very angry at me about that. But at the same time, I could understand that anger if somebody was like, I didn't like Up. I think I would whip around on them and be like, fucking really? I don't think this movie is perfect, but it's fucking Up.
It's not perfect, and I am kind of bummed. There's a moment in the movie I get bummed because the antagonist of the movie ends up being the guy that he viewed as a hero when he was younger. Mm-hmm. And these days, more and more and more and more and more, it's like all your heroes are turning out to be the villains.
What's the word? Habitual predators?
And
It sucks.
it sucks.
It sucks.
And this movie came out before all of that happened,
Yep.
but it's kind of turned into that.
Yeah,
And
especially considering who Kevin the Bird was named after, Kevin Spacey. Like, all of your favorites are problematic.
That makes me even sadder now.
Yeah.
It was made for $175 million, which seems very expensive for
that time.
2009.
I mean, the graphics are
Doesn't
pretty
that
top
seem
tier.
Really expensive.
It does seem kind of ridiculously expensive.
Almost $200 million for an animated
But this
film.
was like Pixar at the beginning of its zenith period, right? Like this is...
Yeah, but it's still like $200 million. Well, it's not 200, but it's close enough.
I
And
mean,
it's 2000
after marketing, it's easily a $200 million movie.
It's 15 years old, this movie.
Yeah.
Probably spent anywhere between 50 to another $100 million on promotion.
Yeah.
Especially
Which is kind of ridiculous
now
because
it's
who wasn't
Disney's
going to go
Pixar.
see this movie?
especially because this is like one of, Up is, I don't know what number it comes on Pixar's list of films that they had been coming out with, but I'm pretty sure like Monsters Inc. has already come out,
Yeah.
Cars has already come out,
Ratatouille had come out.
Ratatouille
Yeah.
had come out, Toy Story 2 I think was already out, and a lot of these movies, WALL-E I think had already been out. A lot of these movies, if not all of them, but the majority of these movies were all award-winning films.
Yes. This was the 10th this was the 10th Pixar film. It came after WALL-E, but before Toy Story 3.
Okay. So it was made for $175 million, but it made $293 domestically.
Yeah, that's about right.
$438 million internationally.
Fuck me.
And then it made another $308 million on home media.
Holy shit.
It doubled its production budget in home media alone.
Much like It Follows.
There was only a $15 million difference between what it made on home media versus what it made domestically.
That's fucking insane. That's fucking insane.
It made the fact that it made more on home media than it even did domestically is
bonkers. But we bought it. I mean, I know we watched it today on Disney Plus, but it's somewhere in our DVD case.
We do own it.
Yeah, like that's. But you know what? Again, 2009, we're in the, it's pre-streaming. Netflix reigns supreme by discs alone. Yeah. Like, it's years. It's It's 11 years before Disney Plus even comes out. So, yeah, the only way you could watch this movie was with a DVD.
Yeah, only 25 million of that was Blu-ray. The rest of it, the rest of that 308 was all DVD.
Because nobody had Blu-ray back then.
Right.
Yeah.
But altogether, the grand total, $1.04 billion Up made.
Good for them.
I never think of Up being a $1 billion movie. But
no. I mean, it is in a technical standard, but it didn't make $1 billion in box office alone.
Right.
I'm sure if you adjusted for inflation and then did all the math, there are probably a handful of movies that we wouldn't expect to be $1 billion movies after all is said and all is done.
Yeah.
But good for Pete Docter. This movie is dirtlin'.
Up won 81 awards, including 2 Oscars. It was nominated for Best Film that year in 2010.
The only other animated film before that was Beauty and the Beast.
Yep. Yeah, like I was going to say, animated films rarely are even nominated for Best Film, but
it
was
rightfully won.
It not only was nominated for Best Film, but also Best Animated Film.
Yeah, which it won.
It won that one that year. Hurt Locker was the movie that year that won Best Film.
Yikes. You'd have to watch Up after watching Hurt Locker, just for a palate cleanser.
Up also won Best Original Score, which, we didn't get to it because...
Michael motherfucking badass motherfucker, the GOAT, Giacchino.
Michael Giacchino.
Michael fucking Giacchino.
The genius behind
so
some
many
of our
things.
Favorite... listen to our podcast that we've done before this because he keeps coming up.
He keeps coming
over
up.
and over and over.
And we love him and we will love him forever.
And we've talked about him
I will
so
say,
much.
so Up's musical score became the 10th musical score to win the Grammy, Golden Globe, and Academy Award for Best Original Score.
Wow.
The previous winners were Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Jaws, A New Hope, E.T., Out of Africa, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The English Patient, and The Return of the King. Which is a pretty high pedigree of films and scores for Michael Giacchino to have wiggled his way in with what honestly has to be one of his best film scores.
It's
definitely his most recognizable.
Great.
I mean, I think that I know plenty of people that know the theme from Up, but they don't know who did it.
Sure.
But
I mean, his theme to Up is very recognizable, and I would also say his Spider-Man theme. It's very different from
Star Wars to an extent, but I still think I think if you were to say, I mean, first of all, I don't think your average person is going to know who Michael Giacchino is in the first place.
Probably not.
But if they were movie nerds and you were to say what is Michael Giacchino's most popular score, they'd probably say Up.
Yeah, that you can hum right now.
Yeah. One of my favorite memories of that song, I have a lot of really wonderful memories wrapped around this particular movie, but just being in Disneyland while that song plays over the overhead speaker as you walk into Main Street, and it's just playing through the air as you're, wandering past the confectionery and the mercantile and all those wonderful places. Like, you go to Disneyland, you're going to hear this song just playing on Main Street. And so I have a lot of lovely memories of seeing the balloon vendors, with their big, giant, beautiful Disney balloons, right? Kind of like hundreds of them strapped to their waists, and the corn dog stands over in the corner smelling delicious, and kids are crying and kids are laughing and people are talking around, and the castle's right behind you, and the Up song is playing, and it's magical. So I've more than anything, I think that's what I associate the song with, is Main Street at Disneyland. And that's one of my favorite places on this planet.
It's so magical.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a magical moment even more magical.
It really does. Like, it's the perfect song.
The other nominees that year for original score, you had James Horner, who did Avatar, Alexander Desplat for Fantastic Mr. Fox, which we had talked about when we did that one.
You know what? And we probably were just like, well, yeah, of course Michael Giacchino won for Up, but that was a very cute little score.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Hans Zimmer, always, for some reason, I forget that he scored Sherlock Holmes.
He did?
He did.
And it was up for an Oscar?
And it was up for an Oscar.
What?
Surprise, surprise.
I'm going to have to check that out now, because I, gun to my head, couldn't tell you. I have a vague idea in my head of something like tinny and sort of like, I don't know, fucking steampunk and upbeat, but I couldn't hum it to you the way I could hum this score.
I had it in my... When I was writing this list,
I
had it in my head.
Yeah.
And now, now, I'm like, it feels like gun to the head. I'm just like,
or were they just like, fucking just give it to Hans Zimmer because nobody else did a good job that year?
Well, they gave it to... Oh, you mean to have him
the nomination,
it?
I mean.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, they're like,
yeah, who else? The fifth one?
Sure,
what did Hans Zimmer do? Just
they also... The music behind the Hurt Locker was also nominated. I only watched the Hurt Locker once, so I couldn't tell you anything about the music.
It just looked like a fucking bummer of a movie, and I was like, I'm out.
Up was also nominated for Best Animated Feature and won.
Mm-hmm.
It was up against Coraline.
Wow.
Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Okay.
The Princess and the Frog.
Oh, boy.
And The Secret of the Kells.
Which is an Irish film.
Right, and I had to look it up because I completely forgot about it. I never watched it.
No, but I remember it being... That's a pretty high pedigree of films, but of course Up was going to win.
Secret of the Kells looks a lot like Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
It has that
it's
kind
the
of
same
animation
kind of crazy
to it.
animation. Irish film, I think.
And it's from the same people... It's from the same people who made Triplets of Belleville.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a pretty solid pedigree of films. Because, like, The Princess and the Frog is an underrated gem of a film. It's a great Disney princess movie. It's pretty fantastic from top to bottom, that movie. Fantastic Mr. Fox, of course, a goddamn classic. We are going to have to watch Coraline later in our podcast. I remember enjoying it. I mean, I think it's a pretty decent movie, but I have friends, hey Randy, that are obsessed with Coraline. And I never saw Secret of the Kells, but I know that it was kind of like an indie darling. So that's a solid pedigree of films. Like, sometimes the best animated films are like Shrek 3 and The Wonder Birds. And you're like, the
4,
fuck?
6.
Yeah. And then other years it's banger after banger after banger, but Up's going to come out on top. It's not even my favorite of that list, but it's still the best of them. I think that this movie, a lot of the love of this movie comes entirely and only from the first 10 minutes of it. Like, the overall story is pretty great, but that first 10 minutes are what secured it every single award it got across the board.
Man, that opening sequence.
I don't see Caveman cry at movies often, but he cried at this one.
Got me.
Every time. Yeah.
Because it's just so relatable.
I love you so much.
Do you know this movie was originally going to be called Heliums?
That's a stupid name for this movie. It wouldn't have done as well. There's a multiverse of Earth somewhere out there where Heliums was the title, and there's a passionate, nerdy Maggie and Caveman sitting there going, telling you guys, you need to watch Helium. It's a really good movie. The first 10 minutes will destroy you.
Early concepts differed from the final film, obviously. The initial version featured a floating city on an alien planet populated with Muppet-like creatures, with two brothers vying to inherit their father's kingdom.
The fuck?
And when the brothers fell to Earth, they encountered a tall bird who helped them understand each other.
That would have been a terrible
That is
movie.
a wild
That's helium
movie.
right there.
That is a movie that you call helium.
Yeah, and that you watch purely to get stoned, and you watch that movie on mushrooms because that sounds insane.
We got the wonderful Edward Asner, or just Ed Asner,
Ed
as we
Asner.
all know him.
Santa.
Yes,
Maybe my favorite theatrical Santa.
he's a great Santa. I would say, favorite Santas are between Ed Asner and Richard Attenborough.
I don't really care for Miracle on 31st Street because I find
I love his Santa though.
I watched it once as a kid. We weren't into those sort of sappy, like, Christmas movies. In our house, it was A Christmas Carol 24/7. So for me, I would say that Ed Asner is my favorite Hollywood Santa, followed maybe by what's his face from Arthur Christmas, Jim Broadbent. Although Jim Broadbent plays a very kind of like, not loser Santa, but he's a very sort of comfortably obtuse Santa.
Yeah.
There is some play there on David Harbour from that Santa Murders People movie. What was that called?
Something Slay.
Yeah. Silent Night or...
Wait.
Whatever movie that was. I don't know. That was fun. But Ed Asner is forever my Santa. Caveman's going to pull it up now. While Caveman pulls that up, I will bring up that Christopher Plummer plays the antagonist of this film. A character called Muntz. What is his name? Charles Muntz. Christopher Plummer, of course, the incredible actor from The Sound of Music and Knives Out and replacing Kevin Spacey in most things and just in general being incredible Christopher Plummer. Ed Asner and Christopher Plummer are the two biggest names in this film, and they were born less than a month apart in 1929, and both men died in 2021, 7 months apart at the age of 91. So I hope that they were friends in real life. I don't think I've ever really heard of them hanging out or not, but my love for Ed Asner and Christopher Plummer will be forever. I mean, both men have done incredible things that I will always adore. Was it Silent Night? It was Silent Night, wasn't it?
Violent Night.
Violent Night. Fuck, I was close. Of course it was a pun. Anyways, it was a delight.
So besides Ed Asner and Christopher Plummer, we also have a kid named Jordan Nagai.
Who played Russell?
He played Russell, the Boy Scout base, or
the small mailman.
The small mailman. Yes, I thought he did a fantastic job. He sounds absolutely adorable.
Yeah.
Character is adorable.
I don't think he's done much else, correct?
He hasn't. I think he's been on like Simpsons, and he did the Doug's Special Mission short.
Yeah, he hasn't done much. I read on IMDb that the reason he got cast for Up was because his brother was auditioning for the film, and he Jordan came along for the ride and would not stop talking, and that's what the directors were kind of looking for, was that kind of consistent energy.
Sure.
But imagine the awkwardness of, you were up for this part, but I got it instead, and I wasn't even supposed to be there.
I'm not even supposed to be there.
Kind
I wasn't
of
even
makes
trying
me wonder
for
what
it.
the brother feels
What's
about
their
that these
relationship
days.
now?
Yeah.
People keep
stole Up from me!
People bring up to him.
It wasn't my fault!
I'm not even supposed to be here today. Oh, fuck you.
John Ratzenberger played the construction foreman.
Because he had to.
It's in his contract.
Yeah, up to a point. He hasn't been in a PIXAR movie for some time now.
I miss him.
Yeah, I kind of do too. I miss that sort of,
familiarity.
You're always sort of looking for him. It was a fun Easter egg that wasn't distracting. It was just oh shit, there he is.
And then the only other person I really know on this list that I can see, well, Jess Harnell's down there, but I don't care.
I was going to say Jess Harnell.
No, Jess Harnell's great. He's Wacko. in
He is wacko.
the younger one,
Yes.
the younger Warner brother.
Mm-hmm. And 1,000 other things.
And 1,000.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I clicked on his profile, he
It's
would have
just
1,000
one
projects.
after another.
Voice to everything. But Delroy Lindo is who I was talking about. I love Delroy Lindo so much.
I was going to say, we were just talking about him, weren't we? I feel like his name pops up a lot in our podcasts because he's just been in various things.
Around forever. And he's a great character actor, and he starts talking and you can just hear it in his voice.
Mm-hmm.
He was in this.
As soon as that character started talking, I was like, I know that voice. And sure enough, I knew that voice.
He was the other detective on Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah.
That's why we're talking about
Timothy Olyphant.
Timothy Olyphant's partner.
Yeah.
During
our Once Upon a Time
played
episode.
his
Timothy Olyphant.
kind of his upper
eye freckle.
The same year Gone in 60 Seconds. I think the reason why I liked him so much in the beginning was because he was in Gone in 60 Seconds, but he was also the same year was in Romeo Must Die, which was probably the
Jet Li
and Aaliyah.
I pulled that out of nowhere.
Good job.
Aaliyah.
Yeah, Aaliyah was also in it. Aaliyah's, to me, it's her best film.
Mm-hmm.
It's better than
Queen of the Damned.
Queen of the Damned.
You know what? It's funny that you bring her up because at the moment her name's being floated around as a possible victim of Diddy murders over the course of his illustrious, terrible career. It's one of the many internet rumors is that, he made sure she was on a faulty plane to get rid of her because she spurned him or something. Yeah. Rest in peace, Aaliyah. You deserved better. And you were screwed over by so many Hollywood men, R. Kelly.
Nice try, Diddy.
Of course, you got Bob Peterson, who was a part of the production, as the voice of Doug. And I believe Pete Docter did the voice of Kevin, the bird, essentially. And it's a very small cast. Outside of Ellie, who as a child has a bunch of lines, but as an adult has none, and a couple random nameless characters. The core cast is Carl, Russell, and Charles, and Doug. And I guess all the other animals, but none of the other animals really have name. They're not any big names attached to them. So yeah, it's a small cast of characters, but each one of them is so delightfully charming and weird in their own way that they're wonderful. For instance, Carl Fredricksen, played by Ed Asner, who is 78 when his character is 78 years old. He was also 78 when he recorded the lines.
Oh, wow.
But Carl himself is a 78-year-old man who was fit as fuck. The strength, the physical strength Carl has in this movie is insane. He's falling off of shit. He's pulling people up. Like, that man is 78 and fucking fit. He's strong. Because how else do you explain half the shit that he does in this movie? The physics of this world make zero sense. There's no way that few balloons could lift a house.
Sure, of course.
There's no way that old man could get those balloons up there and get that whole rigging up in less than 12 hours.
It is all tied to his chimney as well.
Yeah. Like, did he go up in it? Like, how? Like, there is no way that they could that the house weighs less with the helium than Russell and Carl do. The physics are fucking bonkers in this movie. And maybe that ruined it a little bit for me watching it today. Just a little bit.
But it's an animated film.
The hose that Carl uses to, tether himself to the house has got to be made of mithril. There is no other explanation. Because a basic garden hose would not be that goddamn strong. That thing was made by the elves in Lothlorien. There is no other explanation. And Caveman is giving me a look right now. He's contemplating this whole podcast in this very moment.
We're talking about an animated film for children.
I know. But to an extent today, I was watching it and I was like all right, that's a little. It's a house. Yeah. Do you know how much it would take to lift this place we're in right now?
Fish don't talk and toys aren't alive. What are we doing?
What are we doing? I know it's very silly, but I was watching it and I was sort of like, So, Caveman,
Yeah,
would you do this for me?
I'll try.
No, I mean, would you... The whole point of this movie, or at least the whole... The thing that propels Carl forward is finishing his wife's dreams.
Right.
Would you take a house halfway across the world with a small little boy and a talking dog for me?
If physics were on my side, sure. I sure would try.
When we first saw this, this movie came out in May of 2019. 2009. This was before we had kids. It was before I had even been pregnant with our first child. We had started to talk about wanting kids, and I had been diagnosed by a very mean doctor with PCOS who told me I was just flat out never going to have kids. Like, the bitch looked me dead in the eyes and went, "You're probably never going to have kids," and then like walked out of the room, and I was sitting there like, what the fuck? So wherever she is, I hope she died of COVID. Anyways, well, then we saw this movie, and this movie started with the impeccable short film called Cloudy Days, I believe, where a cloud who is responsible for making all the animals that the storks bring to Earth is trying to make really cute things like babies and kittens, but it keeps making really terrible things like sharks and snakes and like eels and shit. And I wept my way through that, just the hardcore in the, the fever of I wanted to have a baby and it wasn't working out the way I thought. Speaking of babies, not working out the way I thought.
Speaking of which.
Silly 2009 Maggie, if only she knew. So I sobbed my way through that, and then this movie started, and the first 10 minutes of this film happen, which shows the life of Carl and Ellie and her ultimate death. And I don't think I had cried harder in a movie up till that point. That fucking ruined me for a hot minute because, oh God, my feelings. I was Caveman and I had been married for a few years. We were deeply in love. I saw us in that couple, and that fucking 10 minutes broke me. Caveman, thoughts on that?
It's not an easy intro to get through.
No.
Which is probably why I don't watch it all the time. It's a great movie.
It really is a very cute movie, and I can't remember the last time I watched it before today.
It's not an easy rewatchable film, but I was so glad that I got to watch it again.
Yeah. Because there was a lot I had forgotten about. I remembered those 10 minutes, but I didn't remember much about Muntz and his dogs.
Sure. I actually completely forgot about the big bird. Like, that was the whole point of him going out there in the first place. Muntz, that is. It was a lot of fun to watch again, but man, those first 10 minutes.
And then, but it's not just those first 10 minutes. When he is going through, like, the adventure book at the end.
Oh.
And she's like, "My adventure was you."
Yeah.
Fuck. Just fuck.
Man, when the part that really got me at the beginning of those first 10 minutes, the part that really just broke me was the moment where he sends the balloon and stick through her hospital room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't help anything.
No.
And then, him looking through the book at the end, and thanks for the adventure. Now go have a new one.
Yeah.
It's like, no. No, my adventure was supposed to be with you. I don't want a new one. She's right, but no.
I'm tearing up right now just thinking about the inevitability of you living longer than me.
And I think of vice versa, and even me being put in his position of just, this movie also shows how we treat our elderly.
Yeah.
Which is not great.
No, it's not.
I am so happy that my grandmother has my uncle, her youngest son, to look after her because nobody else is. and
Everybody's too far away, or your uncle.
right,
Yeah.
just too far away.
Yeah.
So the fact that she has somebody, now that my grandpa has died,
How long were they together?
I mean, she's in her early 90s now, and
They were together like 70 years.
they got married very young.
They did. I mean, she was a teenage bride.
She was 16 and he was 20 something.
Fuck, that wouldn't fly today.
It was very different.
It was very
back
different.
in the
And
30s,
they were together
40s.
till the bitter end. Well, no, because
Late 40s.
he wasn't that much older than her, because when
they
he
had
passed
my dad.
away,
My dad was born in 51.
Yeah.
And I think they'd only been married for a couple years.
Yeah. But your grandpa wasn't that much older when he passed, right? He was like 94,
He was
95?
94, 95. I want to say 94.
Yeah, so he was only
and she
like
was 89, I think, when he died.
So, yeah, so she's only like less than 5 years older than
forget.
him.
But
So
still.
I'm just saying that
I'm just happy
your
she has
grandparents,
somebody now that...
your grandparents are so beloved to me. And you know that. And I'm going to start crying because I'm thinking about them. I didn't really grow up with a grandma. The grandma I was named for died before I was born. My mom's mom died when I was a young girl, and I barely have any memories of her. And then there was my grandpa's wife, who was an absolute fucking whack job, who I only learned to appreciate after she was gone. So I didn't grow up with a grandma. So your grandma is my grandma. And I'm full on crying now, folks. Sorry about that. But they were together a long time. It was true love. And it was beautiful. And I can only hope for that for us. Because, like, I know the true love part is there, but, like, centennial, baby. Like, I don't want to go anywhere without you.
Yeah. No, Maggie and I have an agreement that we've had forever.
A very long time.
Very
now.
long time. Maybe even before we got married. But essentially the agreement is we go the same time.
Together or not at all.
Together or not at all. Which
Yeah.
I guess we're immortal in that situation.
Together or not at all.
And
Honey.
And it's also we're
We want to see the tricentennial.
yeah, 2076
Yeah.
is the goal.
Well, that's not the goal. That's what's going to happen. It's just that's what's going to happen. The goal is together or not at all. You know.
But which is why this movie makes me cry.
It's
Goddamn movie.
It's hard to watch as a married couple for so many reasons. My longtime friend Laura and her husband Richard, you know, this movie is very important to them. In fact, I believe they named their daughter Ellie. Yeah, their daughter's name is Ellie after it. The song played at their wedding. They had little, you know, the little grape soda pins at their wedding. The love of Ellie and Carl is one of the most beautiful relationships ever put to screen. And it's, you know, in a 90-minute movie, and it's less than 10, you know, it's maybe less than 20 minutes of the overall film. And it's still better than anything Stephanie Meyers did with Twilight
Wow.
or 50 Shades of Grey or any of those other bullshit love stories that came out afterwards. And I'll die on that hill. movieminglepod@gmail.com. You can yell at me, but I
She's
don't
right.
care. I'm right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, let's get over the marriage of it all.
You know, we don't really live in times of adventurers anymore. Like that whole idea of I'm this guy and I'm going to go to this place and I'm going to discover stuff and it's this big adventure, and everybody's just like so behind them, like the way we were with the space race.
Yeah.
The way,
You know who exemplifies that these days?
I don't know. I wrote somebody down. Is it the same person?
Josh Gates.
Yeah, sure.
So Josh Gates from Expedition
adventurer,
Unknown
sure.
and Destination Truth, which is where we fell in love with him. I actually met him at Disneyland California Adventure, and he was such a sweet man. He's a modern day adventurer. I mean, he's been to more than half the countries on this planet. The most recent season of his show premiered tonight, actually, and he's down in Jordan at the Indiana Jones buildings carved into the walls.
yeah, I
I
know
know
that place.
it's not the city of Petra, discovering shit. Like, he's kind of at the forefront there for adventurers. Who are you thinking of?
I was going to say, for an adventurer, a modern day adventurer,
Definitely not that guy on the Titanic submersible.
close. Because I was going to say James Cameron.
James Cameron, though, he's adventuring the oceans, though. He's not...
He's still an adventurer.
Which is true.
Going out and trying to discover new life and new civilizations.
Which is true, but Josh Gates is a, living, paid... all over the world, not just the Titanic.
But he is like a Travel Channel.
Well, yeah, but he's getting paid to be an adventurer.
Yeah,
he's a part of the fucking Explorers Club, which is
not just like an actor or something. He actually went to college and got his degree
in paleontology. No, in archaeology.
Archaeology.
Yeah. And weirdly, television studies, which is how
you got a major in your minor.
Only he could have been so charming and so lovely to put both of those things together.
I'm so glad I also got to meet him at Disneyland.
Mine was
Star
at
Tours.
you met him in Star. You rode Star Tours with him. I rode Soaring Over California with him, and our friend of the podcast Megan was there that day. And she actually took the photo. Ooh, or was it her? Or was it Josh Gage's eventual wife? I'm pretty sure it was her who took the photo of us. And I got to be like, I love your show, and I loved your book, and I'm a big fan.
Same thing to him, and he's very kind,
very sweet man, and absolutely fucking adorable.
And took the time to. I didn't take a picture with him, but I at least just wanted to talk to him about how much I liked his show, and looking forward to seeing something new. And at the time, he was like, well, I don't know if we're doing anything more, but...
Because Destination Truth had kind of, not been canceled, but been canceled.
I mean, he's... how many shows has he had since we met him?
Yeah, a couple.
I mean...
Yeah, I mean, Expedition Unknown's a pretty big one. I know it's just the Travel Channel, but it's basic cable throwing money at a dude to travel the world. That's pretty big.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I would love that job.
I would love that job. And he is... Josh Gates, if you ever want to come on the show and watch a movie with us... Feel free to hit us up at movieminglepod@gmail.com. Love you.
We'll talk about your favorite horror film.
Fuck you. I would watch whatever Josh Gates' favorite horror film was, even if it was Arachnophobia.
Wow, okay.
Even if it was that's the level of
Do it for him, but not for me. I see how it is.
Shit.
I remember when I was a teenager... I had friends who talked about looking for snipes. Mm-hmm. How snipes were this bird. You would tell a friend, this is what a snipe is. A snipe is a very hard bird to find and catch. And it's so hard to find and catch that is where the definition of sniper came from. And I'm pretty sure...
Real snipe sellies, boys. Dirty fucking dangles, boys. Sorry, when I hear the word snipes these days, I just automatically think of Riley and Jonesy from Letterkenny.
So yeah, there was this dumb, stupid game that my high school friends and I would do to people who weren't aware of our stupidity. And essentially what it was is you talk about how snipes are a bird that are very hard to get and catch. And that they were called snipes, and that the origin of sniper came from snipes, which is true.
Yeah.
But we always pretended like the snipe was a very common bird in the area where we lived, which was not at all.
Yeah.
And so we would convince people to go snipe hunting, or go look for snipes. And so in this movie, when it happens, it always makes me think of my high school years of being a stupid teenager and getting people to go look for a bird that didn't exist.
Life was a lot of fun for you as a conservative Christian teenager, wasn't it?
There's nothing to do
in the high
desert, California. Absolutely nothing to do.
Thank Christ you met me.
A lot of bike riding.
Boy.
A lot of bike riding and listening to the Newsboys.
Yeah, going to youth groups
and
oh boy, trying to hope that the pastor's daughter would look at you the right way.
Just look at me once.
Just once. Oh boy. Really quickly, I won't go into too much of a tangent. One of my favorite little bits about this movie is every time Carl's hearing aid emits that really high-pitched squeal. Growing up in my house, across the street from us was an old woman named Bonnie. And Bonnie would sit out every day. She would go out, depending on the weather and winter, the seasons, whether or not it was a long summer evening or a short winter evening. But as, about an hour before sunset, she would open up her garage door and she would sit in a little plastic lawn chair on her driveway and she would just watch the street. Now, Caveman, you've been on the street that I grew up on. Nothing happened on that street on a good day. But at least when we were kids, we would be out front playing in the driveway or maybe with the completely stolen basketball hoop at the end of our street or whatever, and she would sit and watch us. And my parents encouraged me to go talk to Bonnie. Why don't you go talk to Bonnie? She would probably love your company. So I would go and I would sit next to Bonnie and I would talk to her, as a young kid, anywhere from 10 to, 8 to 12, somewhere in that range. I would talk to Bonnie and she would tell me stories about her life, which I don't remember much of, unfortunately. And I was just some sort of company and comfort to her because I was the young girl in the neighborhood that took notice of her, right? And her hearing aid would often squeal loudly and she'd fiddle with it. So every time I hear a very squealing loud hearing aid, I think of her. And she's long gone. The house was sold. I don't think she had a lot of family. I couldn't even tell you, gun to my head, what her last name was. But I'd like to think that I was at least some, company and comfort for her in her later years. But yeah, good old Bonnie and her squealing hearing aid. And I thought of her again today for the first time in a long time, watching Up and hearing Carl's hearing aid just squeak across, the jungles of Venezuela. I love the dogs in this movie. I had a dream just last night that our producer Robin was gifted with 4 puppy brothers. And Caveman was very, very upset because all of a sudden we had 5 pets in our tiny apartment. And one of them was a very cute little dachshund. But Doug is probably the purest Disney character to ever exist.
He's such a good boy.
He is such a good boy. Who is such a good boy.
Oh, pet that dog.
Oh, pet that dog. You and I pet that dog. Do you remember meeting Doug at California Adventureland?
Yes, I do.
So there's a part, for you listeners who have never been to California Adventureland. It's just called California Adventure, but we call it California Adventureland here in our house. There is a part that's sort of like this. It's like in the quote-unquote redwood part of California, and it's this big forest-themed, playground, right? It's just a giant playground. There's rope bridges and, fucking just it's all weird trees and wildernesses and streams that young kids play in. And our oldest, fucking loved that area. And I just very vividly remember being super pregnant with our youngest at Disneyland, and all our oldest wanted to do was just play in this giant tree house it's called the Redwood Play Area or whatever it's called. And we met Doug there once, and there's this very, very cute picture of our little family, and Doug from Up, and it was... I think I was more excited than our oldest was because it's Doug. I just met you and I love you. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah. It was a treasure.
I mean, I have a lot of great memories of that little area of California Adventureland with...
God, our oldest loved it.
Yeah. Got a lot of pictures.
Yeah. Of
tiny human being.
Teeny Babo.
Having the best time.
Yeah, Tino Babo just in this giant world, just playing to their heart's content. Oh, to go back to those memories. But Doug is the sweetest, softest boy, only followed by Russell, who is also the sweetest, softest boy. I love those 2 characters dearly. I don't know, this movie's so sweet.
So one moment that really stood out to me in the movie, and I remember watching a behind-the-scenes making of the animation of the balloons.
Yes.
And I just
love the reflection of the balloons.
One of my favorite parts of this whole movie is when he's first releasing the balloons from inside of his house, and they break open through the top. Just that animation of them all moving. I remember watching them and how they constructed that, and how back then it wasn't as easy as it is now
No.
to make a simulation like that.
Well, the reason it's easy now is because they made
Because
this
they made
movie.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the animation of their balloons, the reflection, the sunlight going through them and reflecting off the buildings, where you can see the outer edge of the balloons
And the color.
are all the different colors.
Yeah.
It's absolutely beautiful moment.
It's
of the movie.
magical. Maybe that's it. Like this movie is kind of light on plot, right? Man steals his house away and travels it to another country, which how he got there
I mean, it happens in a
Is
matter
beyond
of like 3 minutes.
seconds,
And
right? And
he goes from being in what we assume to be like a New York type
some
area,
sort of metropolitan American
and
area.
then before we know it, he's in South America.
Yeah.
Like he's
Like-
already past Mexico.
Yeah. The closest he could have been was maybe Texas, but nobody had a Texas accent. So maybe Atlanta? Like, right? But anyways, it doesn't matter where he was. Robin, stop biting me.
They had a GPS.
They had a GPS that they lost. That joke, I
That
had
joke was
forgotten
so good.
completely
I
about
forgot
that
as
joke.
well.
Where he's like, but this GPS will never be lost. Then he chucks it out the window.
I was trying to remember how they knew they were in South America. It's there to let the audience know that they have reached South America.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how.
Nope.
Has absolutely no. There's no point in knowing. They're just there, and that's all that matters. Yeah. Now they have to. Eventually, the house keeps losing altitude, and eventually they have to walk the house to the destination.
Yeah, to like this giant crescent moon mountain, which I don't know. I always found it interesting that like it was half like Rocky Mountain, half jungle. But, you know, they needed different scenery, and I've never been to the area that inspired, the real life area that inspired Paradise Falls, so I can't say one way or the other. But again, I'm just saying, that hose was made of mithril. There's no other explanation for how that hose stuck to that building. And, you know, Carl, 78-year-old Carl Fredricksen, was able to walk that house across the mountain. He used to be
great
Captain
shape.
America.
Yeah.
Like, this is what Captain America did in between losing Peggy and going to Sam and telling him what's what. That is what Up is, because there's no other explanation for his strength in this movie. I'm just saying. Carl Fredricksen, Steve Rogers, same person. One of my favorite parts of this movie, which you didn't react to, so I wonder if you caught, is near the end when Russell is hanging by that mithril hose on the house, and Muntz releases the hounds on him, but the hounds come out in 3 biplanes, and they're called Gray Leader, Gray 2, or Gray 1 and Gray 2, like Red Leader from Star Wars.
Yeah.
But dogs are notoriously colorblind,
Right.
so they only see in gray.
It's grade leader, grade
That
5, grade 3.
made me giggle so hard.
That's a good one.
And you didn't react to that at all. And I was
No,
like, did he not catch
I-
that?
I didn't.
Because they have this whole thing. It was like Gray Leader, Gray 1 standing by, Gray 2 standing by.
Some really solid jokes in this movie.
It's
And
such a sweet film. It's
No, that's
so
that's a good one.
simple. The plot of this movie is so simple, but it's the emotions that ring you in, right? It's Carl and Ellie's house. Not only is it their house sitting on the edge of Paradise Falls where they had always wanted it to be, but it was also, you know, when Carl empties the house of all the furniture so that he can go save Russell, it's their chairs sitting side by side. And then eventually the house
so much.
goes back to that area. It's the emotion of love in this movie that is so powerful. And that, I think it's why it's a classic. This movie is this movie because of the first 10 minutes. If this movie didn't
it
have
sets
the Carl...
tone for the entire movie.
Yeah.
It's a great way to start.
And if it didn't have the Carl and
Breakthroughs.
Ellie love story, I don't think it would have been as successful as it was. And we all aspire to that. I'm sitting here looking at you right now thinking together or not at all. And I could cry so much over that mere thought. You know, it's love and being loved and a life well lived. Having an adventure with your partner. Fuck. Here it comes again. You know, that's what this movie is, and that's why it's so charming. And I'm kind of shocked it's not higher up on the animated list, because here we are in the 30s of our overall podcast, but that means that puts this particular movie in the top 20 animated films in the teens somewhere. This movie is what it is because of the love story. It's not just Russell and Carl's relationship. It's not for Doug, who I would die for. And honestly, I would replace with producer Robin in a heartbeat.
Damn.
Yeah, he's asleep in front of me, perfect and adorable. But I would give up Robin any day for a Doug, as long as he spoke to me.
What if it was Robin, but he could speak to you?
If Robin can speak to us, it would just be a constant stream of like, I don't want to fucking do this. Go away, go away, go away. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Touch me. You're my mother and I'm going to suckle on your arm forever. Don't touch me. Like, you think that Robin, that producer Robin right now, as smooth marble-brained as he is, has anything to give us other than just like, I don't want to be associated with you. Feed me, mother. This cat loves you, but he kind of tolerates the rest of us. And there is there is no bond tighter than the pet and the dad that didn't really want that pet. And yet he chose you over all of us. You know, our son's his brother that he tackles. Our eldest is his escape route. And I'm just the feeder. I'm the one that feeds him. And that's it to him. But he loves you. So yeah, I would take a Doug over him any day, even though he's so cute right now.
He's adorable.
His little mustache is so sweet.
The only other thing that I was going to say is that to this day, and just like many other Pixar films, how quotable they can be, and how to this day I still say, "Squirrel,
squirrel,
squirrel."
That is true. That's the lasting quote of this movie. Is
Especially,
squirrel.
It's the best thing that if you get into a situation where you don't know how to talk your way out of it, just quickly turn your head and say "squirrel," and then just walk away.
I don't know. Personally,
Just
I like
try it.
smoke bomb and pretend that you're throwing something on the ground and running away.
That's not bad either.
Yeah, that's a pretty
Especially
decent
if
one.
you do it in a comedic way. If you run away in a comedic way.
Smoke bomb and you bolt.
Boom, boom,
yeah.
boom, boom, boom.
Ninja dust. Lots of these quotes are coming back to Letterkenny
I like
today.
just squirrel and run.
Yeah, that is true. This movie is sweet and it's charming, and we all know it, we all love it. It's hard to expand on it, but Up will always be a perfect little film. You know, a delightful Pixar movie, a charmer, a crier. You know, like we all know the story of Up, we all love it, and for me, it's always going to be. This movie will always be that main song. And more than anything, I think my memories of Disneyland with you and with our young children. You know, I'll never forget watching this movie with you in theater and crying so hard you had to like practically carry me out of the theater, which happened a lot during Pixar movies and will continue to because they're, you know, built on my tears. But for me, like, I will always love this movie, but Michael Giacchino ultimately wins the day with that theme because it's Main Street Disneyland and it's my heart. So, yeah, Up, we love you.
So, Maggie, what would you give Up out of 5 stars?
I'd give it a 4.5. I still think that Ratatouille remains the most perfect Pixar movie. Well, and WALL-E. WALL-E is the most perfect Pixar movie. And this one is close and darling and emotionally manipulating and sweet. But there's still, like, it's a little short and the plot's a little thin when you really take a big step back and look at it. So I'm going to give it a 4.5. What about you, Caveman?
I was also going to give it a 4.5.
Yeah.
And for the same reasons.
Yeah.
Like, the plot's a little, you know, it is what it is.
It's a little thin.
Yeah.
Like, when you take a giant, objective
really
step back
look
from this
back
movie,
and be like, all right, what am I watching here?
Yeah.
You know, the way
Small
things...
cast of characters.
It is.
It's a simple plot.
But it's so adorable.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun to watch.
So
and
pretty.
You cry your eyes out. And the characters are so much fun. There's not a single character in here I'd get rid of.
No, you're right.
It's a great movie. But yeah, just with the little bit of a thin plot, just knocks it down to 4.5.
Yeah.
Bummer, 4.5.
Oh, no, right?
What a terrible thing.
Yeah.
So, Maggie,
Yeah, Caveman.
I have 2 questions for you.
Hit it.
That's my jacket. No. Keep it. It suits you.
I was already crying. Why would you play that? Why would you play that when I'm already crying?
I didn't know you would be already crying.
About love. Oh, how could you not? It's Up and it's Storm Pilot. Why wouldn't I cry at that?
That's my jacket. No. Keep it. It suits you.
Oh my god, my babies. My sweet babies. I love them.
Oh, boy.
You bastard. I'm going to need a minute. For those of you who don't know, that was a line spoken by Poe Dameron, the most perfect gay space Hufflepuff to ever exist, saying to the love of his life, Finn Dameron, one day, because they totally get married in The Force Awakens, and I am Storm Pilot. That is how I fell in love with Oscar Isaac, is I saw that fucking movie, and I saw this too, and I was like, ho, there's something there. And then I delved into it, and now it's Storm Pilot till death. It will always be Poe and Finn. It will always be Poe and Finn. God damn you, Disney. It will always be them. If Oscar Isaac and John Boyega say that these 2 men are in love with each other, those 2 men were in love with each other. And I don't care what you do and how many beards shaped like Kerry Russell you throw their way, they will always be together. Play it again, please.
That's my jacket. No. Keep it. It suits you.
And then he bites his lip, and it's just so perfect. I love him so much. God damn it.
So I have 2 questions for you, in case you didn't know. First question.
Mm-hmm.
Would the presence of Oscar Isaac in this movie, or his voice, would it have made it better?
No, it wouldn't have. Because how do you improve on this movie? Like, and there's none of the main characters that he could have played that would have made me love or not love this movie anymore. Like, the movie itself is nearly perfect, and including his soft, beautiful voice would not have improved it in any way, in my opinion.
So question number 2, which character would Oscar Isaac play?
Well, therein lies the problem, because, again, he didn't really need to be anywhere. He could have been one of, like, the construction workers. He could have been John Ratzenberger's role, or the guy that got hit on the head, by Carl at the beginning. He could have been one of the dogs, but, like, there was nowhere that you could put Oscar Isaac that I would have been like, that I wouldn't have been angry that they wasted Oscar Isaac on such a small role.
But could you see him, whether, let's say, 20 years from now?
Yeah.
30 years from now?
Oh, I don't want to think about him 30 years from now.
Could he play a Charles Muntz?
He could play a Charles Muntz. He could play a Carl easily if he was an older man. When they inevitably remake Up, there's no reason.
No, don't do it.
Why?
Don't do it.
Why he couldn't voice one of the older gentlemen, of course. But thinking about that particular version of Oscar Isaac that you just played, yes, please do it.
That's my jacket. No.
Oh my god, the jacket.
Keep it. It suits you.
Though, if anything else, if nothing else, I will never forgive Rian Johnson for getting rid of that jacket, because that is the Storm Pilot jacket. I have 3 Funko Pops up there right behind your shoulder of Faux. Shut up. Of Poe, Finn, and Rey all in the traveling jacket. That I own.
Are they the Sisterhood of the Traveling Jacket?
They are the Sisterhood of the Traveling Jacket. That jacket is iconic. I own. I think it's somewhere in our bedroom still. Somewhere. A copy of that jacket. That jacket is beloved. And Rian Johnson, how dare you get rid of it, you son of a bitch. Anyways, yeah, sure, he could have been in it, but I don't think he needed to be. I love you so much, Poe Dameron. You're my forever.
That's my jacket. No. Keep it. It suits you.
It suits you. And that has been this week's episode of Movie Mingle on Up. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it for you. As ever, feel free to rate and review us at whatever podcast platform of your choice is. But go ahead and throw us, 5 stars. Because why not? This is a little rinky-dink podcast made by a couple of people in love who are having the time of their lives doing it for you. As always, you can reach out to us on Instagram, Threads, or Letterboxd at MovieMinglePod. You can find us on YouTube at MovieMinglePodcast. And you can always write us at movieminglepod@gmail.com with any of your questions, comments, and concerns. Storm Pilot forever. We love making this show for you as much as we love each other. After this, we've got another twisted love story, An Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which will be a fun one to revisit. Plus a secret, one more Halloween spooky bonus episode to come that we haven't quite nailed down yet, but we'll get to, we promise. We just thank you for your listenership constantly. You guys are wonderful. We love you so, so much. Thank you for taking part of, thank you for taking this journey with us. It's been quite enjoyable. Until next time, go grab a friend, maybe take some balloons off into the sky and go mingle. Bye.
Are you an effective team?
We are an effective team.
Let them fight.
How did you just do that? I'm a really good lawyer.
Here on Caladan, we ruled by air power and sea power. On Arrakis, we need to cultivate desert power.
Welcome, Mr. Beach. What's that bar? I'm a little confused.
Well, we wouldn't want that, would we?
I don't want to brag, but I will. I was in the Avengers.
The Avengers?
Yeah.
That's great!
Thank you.
What is that?
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Toga, toga, toga.